if anybody wonders what I do with Patreon money, well, I actually save it up and I buy things for the workshop and tools and equipment to make my life better and to show you some other bits and pieces, how we can make tools, adapt tools and buy bits and pieces that we sort of really need. Now, if you recall, I started to do an injector pump because I need to replace some bushings in an injector pump. The problem with that was I needed to clean it, and I needed to clean it properly. So I bought a sandblasting cabinet. It was on special. Actually, I've already done a little video for Patreons just to say thank you, but only 5 actually watched, so I don't know why they didn't pick it up. But anyway, thank you, Patreons. But this was 250 bucks. I said in the video it was 150, but I got the shipping mixed up with the box. This was $250 Canadian dollars, so if you're in pounds, just half it, and you're from Australia, it's about the same. It's a good little piece of kit, and it came from Prince's Auto, and it is exactly the same as the Harbour Freight model, which is red. Now, this is where it gets interesting. I have watched loads and loads and loads of videos on the Harbour Freight modifications, but they can modify things, but they're not really very practical. I don't know, I think people make videos just for the sake of making videos. I've modified this in accordance to some of my ideas and some of their ideas, and I'm not sure if their stuff is exactly right. But because we're in Canada, we have to look after Canadians and buy everything at this side of the border because it makes jobs for Canadians, even if it's in Prince's Auto. So I usually don't like Prince's Auto stuff. It's a bit shonky, but this isn't too bad if you use it as a base to make something better. Now, what am I talking about? Well, Prince's Auto is like a, how would you say, a glorified hardware shop selling bits for cars and all sorts of agricultural equipment and bits and pieces. And it's mostly, well, they have shops all over Canada, but they also do mail order. So that's not too bad. That gets us, we don't have to trundle all the way to Ottawa, which is like 4 hours and then 4 hours back. So this came on special with what's called a Black Friday sale. So I thought, well, I'll have one. And like I say, I've been watching a lot of videos on these to see how you can make them better. You see, this is what's called a siphon cabinet. And what happens is, you're supposed to put a tube into the bottom and it sucks up sand, mixes it with air and blasts it out. Great, no problem. And this is what's designated a 40-pound blasting cabinet. And that means you're supposed to put a 40-pound bag in to the bottom of the hopper, and the tube goes in, the dip tube goes in. Well, I didn't even bother fitting it. There's the dip tube that goes in, and it's a really bad design because it can't suck any air up at the same time as the media's going through it. So that never got fitted. But if you look at the bottom, and let's turn this down a bit. Let's see if we can see right underneath, because this is the key to this actual machine, and how you can make things a bit better. Let's wind down. There we go. Now you should be able to see that. This is called a mixing valve. So what I did was under here, there's supposed to be a dropout. Well, there is still. There's a dropout at the bottom. So what I'm doing is, instead of putting 40 pounds of blast media in there, I'm actually recycling it over and over again. So these are all bits, you know, you can actually buy one of these, which is about 150 Canadian dollars, that's a waste of bloody money. So it's a piece of inch and a quarter pipe fitting, welded onto there, so it's an inch and a quarter pipe nipple, welded onto the bottom flap, a hole cut in it so it sticks through and it's nice and flush. Inch and a quarter T, and at the bottom here, you've got a square bung, and that's how you drain your media out. Now then, what happens here is your siphon gun sucks up through this black tube here, and your media will drop down and along here, and this little valve here is like a metering valve, so you can allow a little bit of air to be drawn in, and which will, in actual fact, will dilute the air going into this tube. So it's not, it's not really sucking a great load up there, and it works very, very well. Now the nice thing about this is, I can load this up with like 3 McDonald's drinking cups. Well, if it was Americans, it would be like this, wouldn't it? But it's like a regular sized cup, 3 cups of sand, or whatever medium you want to use, and then you can quickly clean it out. You can really clean it out very, very quickly. You don't have to drop 40 pounds out, and then you have dust and rubbish everywhere. Now you see there's a little bit of dust here on the floor, and that's principally because this seal that's supplied with the blaster is not very good at all. And that's going to be Mark 2. I'm going to actually do away with all that, and I'm going to make a funnel to lead into this pipe fitting here. Don't know how I'm going to do that, but we'll see about that. But for now I'm going to reseal this, and I'm actually going to cork it up. I'm not going to bother. But it works. So the idea is your sand drops down your hopper into here, mixed with the air, and goes back into your gun again. It works very, very well. Let's have a look now at the ventilation and problems that I've sort of encountered. Sort of every man and his dog who's got one of these things here said they had problems with dust. And I thought, well, that's quite sensible. Yeah, that makes sense. You're going to get dust in it. Because obviously you're blowing compressed air in, like you can see the fittings down here. You're blowing compressed air in to your gun, and this is your suction for your media. Well, you're going to create a positive pressure in your blasting cabinet because you're filling it full of air all the time. It's got nowhere for it to go. So it does come with a vent that's at the back here. Now if you watch a lot of videos, they say you have to block up the vent at the top, and then it sucks out the air. Fresh air comes, well, fresh air is supposed to come in here and across and up to the other side. That's very good. But some people are saying, no, it's the wrong way around. If you block off the top, then you should suck through here and your fresh air inlet should be at that end. Who's right, who's wrong? I don't know. So I've tried it. And I've got a great big shop vac on here. And I can tell you something. I don't have any leaks on this at all, apart from, underneath. You do get leaks of sand here from the door when the door opens, but just get into practice of when you open the door, just give it a bang, and then if you open the door, bang your door, you don't get much of a problem. So if you put the vacuum cleaner on, then you get a bit of a problem, because this is sort of low pressure air and your vacuum's going to suck like crazy, and I'll show you what happens. Before I show you what happens to when I put the vacuum cleaner on, I'll just show you a couple of modifications that I made. The boxes don't fit properly, but I put halogen lights inside, which I'll describe later, and I also put a power socket on the back so I can plug other bits and pieces in. But I made this little, how do we say, a regulator for the air to come into the machine. And what it is, it's actually 2 drains for a floor, stainless steel floor drains, and I drilled a bolt through the middle of it, and so you could turn it and adjust the volume of air coming in. Well, really, I didn't really need that with the shop vac. I'll show you in a minute why. This is why I wanted to show you that first. I did a little bit of fancy wiring because this thing here doesn't come with any lights. It's supposed to have a sort of an LED light in there, and they're not very good. So I put 2 halogen bulbs in. The reason why I put halogen bulbs in, because it dries your media out. When you've got compressed air flying through lines, it can be a bit damp, and that dampens up your sand or your soda or your walnut shells or whatever you're doing. So it's nice to dry them out, and also you get cracking light as well. So I'm going to turn this on, and I'm going to show you what happens with my valve. So that's working normally, but watch what happens to the top Then I start to regulate the airflow. It's got so much negative pressure. It blows it pulls the top in. Look. That accounts for the glass cracking. Never mind. It's got some plexiglass on the top. Now a lot of people are saying, oh, we shouldn't put plexiglass on because it blocks it with sand and static. Well, I've never found that idea, I've never found that out. Seems to work quite well. So what else have we modified? Well, let's have a look inside again. So perhaps you can see up here there's two halogen lamps. They keep that cabinet nice and warm and dry out any moisture in the sand so it doesn't stick and clump. Quite important. So the next thing you can see from the bottom of here, this is where my pipe comes up and feeds the media, and this is the air. Now I'm going to change this shortly. This is just a temporary thing to see if it works. But normally the pipe is this stuff, and I couldn't get any of this type of hose in long enough to do it. It seems to be 3/4, and we only sort of do daft sizes here in Canada. I've got some of this black hose, but it kinks really easy. I don't like that. But one of the good things is I have some airline that is silicone, and this is brilliant stuff. I adapted the gun a little bit, and I used PEX fittings, so when you're using this gun and here, you're not getting you know, they had some hose clips on before, and you're not cutting your hands on the hose clips, so that's all nice and smooth. Now I was going to buy a proper gun on a foot pedal, but after using this for a little while I'm thinking, oh, I might just keep this idea. So coupled with that idea too, I also teed in a little blowgun. Very, very handy. So, because like I say, the silicone, look, you can tie a knot in the damn stuff, and it's really easy. And when you let it go, it just flicks out. Good stuff to use. Now, why did I put an airline in? These cabinets have a fundamental flaw. Is that if you can see in these corners here, I need to make an angled baffle to go in here like this, so it's coming down these corners. This is a grill that lifts out, and I need to make an angle piece to come down here so the sand can run off and back into the hopper, because if not it backs up onto this ledge all the way around, and if you're only using 2 or 3 cupfuls of sand or medium, then it's going to build up very, very quickly. So the gun is really handy, not only for blowing pieces off before you take them out, because if you blow them off with a big gun, well, you're just going to blow more media through and it makes it all dusty. So if you blow them off with a little gun, and these little sets here came from Canadian Tire, you get that one, oh, where is it gone? Yeah. You get that one and one like that and another one, and I think they're not even $15, they're really cheap. They're cheap enough to lose, that's how cheap they are. But these ones here are supposed to go on a keyring. Really useless. Who wants to carry an air gun around on a keyring? But for this job, perfect. Now, as we can see back here, if I move that down there, you can see there one of the modifications that they mention on the internet, and that is my air. That's the air sucking out. So you've got air coming from this side, goes underneath and up into that ducket there. So instead of sucking out at the top of the cabinet, it sucks out at the bottom. Is it a good idea? No, not really, because it sucks all your medium out the bottom. You know, it sucks out too much stuff. So I think I might have to put a reducer on the speed of the vacuum cleaner, which is an idea I've seen, and I think because it's sucking too much, if you see what I mean. We don't get any leaks. It works really, really well. But Oh, that's another thing I forgot to mention. When you get these cabinets, when you're putting them all together, it comes with double-sided sticky tape. Hang on, I'll have to go somebody's ear. That was a delivery for the dust cyclone which I bought as well to go with it, and I'll show you that in a minute or two. But what I was saying to you was it comes with double-sided sticky tape when you assemble this cabinet. I didn't do that. I just got my caulking gun, my air-powered. I just used my air caulking gun, which I use for cars, and I just used some Napa Body Pro and sealed it all off, because you can wash this off with a bit of petrol before it dries. Makes a really nice job. And why do you use that sealer, caulking sealer, instead of the foam? Well, because these are made in China, the bits of metal aren't exactly even and flat, and there's some bores where air can get out or air can get in or whatever. So by caulking it, it makes a nice job. One other thing I noticed is, whilst I was doing that, I'll move this around here and then we maybe can see a bit better. On the sides here, this is all nut and bolted together. Hope you can see that. Let's see. Oh yeah, there it goes. See, all these are nut and bolted together. And one guy was saying, "Oh, I'm going to cut the heads off these, and then you buff them off, and then they're nice and flat, so no dust collects on them." What a load of rubbish. Put the bolts through by all means. You know, going that way instead of coming this way. But they only need to be done on the vertical mounts and on the sides underneath. And it doesn't need to have all the top ones done exactly the same. On here, they can just be nuts and bolts going this way. The idea for that is that they say that the sand or the medium can gather up on there and make it awkward to use. I never found that. Again, if you can't do that, well, what's wrong? Oh yeah, I'll show you another modification I made. Holding the glass in is supposed to be done with nuts and bolts. Well, the glass, plastic and screens and stuff like that. It's supposed to be held in with nuts and bolts. Well, if you can imagine trying to get these far end ones out up here, it's really difficult. So what I did was I drilled them out a little bit and I put these things in. These are what's called riv nuts or captive nuts. So I put those all the way around, and I had to drill the holes out a little bit bigger, and then I just put M6 screws through there and held it in place, so that when I want to change the glass or do anything to it, I don't have to reach around inside. So that was an idea. Now a lot of the American type chaps are putting bolts coming up from the bottom. Well, I couldn't see the point of that. It's quite easy to locate the glass in place. It's no big deal. Let me see what else I can show you. The rear door design can only be described as a Friday 5 o'clock design. It was absolutely atrocious because this is like a plastic moulding. But what it had was lots of steps and holes in here that was moulded into the plastic instead of being flat. I think they did it to make it rigid, but there was nothing on there, so that would actually fill full of sand and rubbish. So what I did was I got a piece of aluminium, very thin stuff that we use for like the siding on your house. You can, it's only, look how thin it is, like nothing. And I glued it using that adhesive caulking. Just put a couple of screws in there temporarily, and when the caulking's dry, take those out and I'll plug the holes up and away we go. Well, that makes life easier, because when you open the door, you're not letting a load of sand fall on the floor. Now let's have another look and see what we can do. On this side here, I put an electrical outlet box, which also goes through to the halogen light inside, and I got a switch on it. And I bought an extension lead from Canadian Tire, which was very, very cheap. I think it was about $7. But I hooked it up so that the power, when you switch the power on, it powers up this outlet socket and the halogen lights at the same time, so that if you were to switch your vacuum cleaner onto full or onto power. As soon as you turn this on, it powers up your vacuum cleaner as well, so you're not having to fight and do two things at once. And it's kind of neat as well because this has got a little neon in it, so it glows up when it's lit up. Let's have another look at something. I put some casters on the bottom and I made a little quick little frame to lift it up a bit, because when I'm here and this is just a perfect working height. Look at that, you dirty rat. Look at that, it's a perfect working height, but by putting 4-inch casters on, it's lifted it up sufficiently and now it's movable. It's just helped it along that much because I can't have anything that's static in here. So the next modification is to put what's called what is it called? A dirt devil or a dust devil, a vacuum retrieval system, and it's a cyclone. So I'm going to put that together and then we can complete this video and show you what this is like. But all in all, it's not a bad little bit of kit. I mean, the way I always look on things, could I have made that for $250? No. I couldn't even buy the sheet metal and the screws and stuff like that to do it with. So as a base kit, it's good, but for what they design it for, it's absolutely useless. Make it into a recycling machine and it's fine. And if you want to see what the results are like, I had this old casting in here and I did this with the Soda Blast. Now it hasn't come up very shiny, principally because I haven't really washed it out very well yet. I just picked it up off the floor and threw it in the blaster. I'm going to try walnut shell and also glass bead on there to see if I can get that to come up. But you can see it got all right into the little corners, everywhere into that pump body. So that was a good example. And that's what it's for. I mean, this pump here is just for testing purposes only. It's not a proper job. But let me assemble this cyclone, and we'll put it in line, and we'll see if it makes a big difference. It's funny how things just turn up in time. Just as I was doing this video, it's called a dust deputy. It's not much, nothing flash for your money, but it seems to work quite well. It's a cyclone, and what it'll do is it'll protect your vacuum cleaner from all, stop your bags filling up very, very quickly. And with a bit of luck, we could reuse that medium again. So what we're going to do now is we're going to blast this little item here. We're just going to give it a quick blast and see what it turns out like. I'm just going to put some more, just a little bit more soda into the machine. Oh, best put the piece in first. I'll just do a little bit, then you just can see that in operation. I hope it works. Turn that off. We'll zoom out. Now that's the bit, I've just given that a bit of a blast. It's a nice finish. This is that epoxy, so it's done quite a bit of a job, but this is just done with soda. So it came out quite nice. But I'll tell you what, let's go and have a look at the machine down here. We have to put a static strip on it and see how much it's pulled out. And you can see in there all that very fine soda has come out. It's funny stuff to breathe in, perhaps not good for you. But that would get all trapped up in your bag, which is something you don't want. Is it a great success? Yes, it is. Let's see where we are now. Yeah, it is a good piece of kit. I like it. Like I say, it is only for very fine stuff, small stuff. It's not for doing like chassis or anything like that, or engine blocks. But like I say, look how fine the solder gets. It gets really, really fine and beaten up. I'm just curious that if we were to put that back in again, would it be any good? Would it actually do anything? I doubt it. I think that's the reason why. Because if we look at regular solder, that's it. It's like salt. I put the screwdriver through my finger, but it's almost like salt. But coming out of that barrel, it was quite fine. Now the thing is, if you want a soda blast, that one £40 bag was $79. I didn't believe it until I got my bill. So we have to be very careful of what we're going to soda blast and what we're going to sandblast. Sandblasting is good for metal, but soda seems to be good for aluminium. I'm going to continue playing around with this for a few days, but I hope you've learnt a few little bits and a few tips and tricks that is kind of handy. I'll be back with more ideas, not after the break, but yeah, I'll be back with some ideas on how we can make this a little bit better, including some mountings and a better vacuum and a smaller vacuum perhaps for this machine, because I've got my eye on one. I know where there is a used one that's a lot less powerful, because we don't want it. It's doing its job. As you can see, it's sucking all the fine stuff out, which is good. There's no heavy particulates in the bottom, and it's better than all that dust being in the air. But it does beat up the soda quite quickly, so we have to decide what we're going to use it for. Alright, so if you like that, stick with us. There'll be more to come, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.